Hi, I'm Shawna.
And I'm Liz.
Welcome to Getting Bookish, a weekly podcast where we will talk about different book-related topics, let you know what we're reading, and even answer Q&As from you.
Be sure to visit our website, gettingbookish.com, and check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Getting Bookish. If you enjoy our podcast, we'd love for you to subscribe and leave us a rating and review, which helps us to be seen by other book lovers.
With all that said, we hope you'll enjoy Getting Bookish with us.
Enjoy the podcast.
Okay. Hi, Shawna.
Hi, Liz.
Yay! I'm super excited. We're back for another week, and today I got to spend the day, quote, quote, working at one of my favorite places in the world, which is the bookstore here in my town, Mackey's Books. And I thought it might be fun to talk about bookstores.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I'm in.
Because, buying books is so much fun. Perusing shelves is so much fun. And I was joking with a customer, and because she was saying that she's like, I have so many books at home that I haven't read yet, as she's buying a stack of books. And I was like, I'm deciding that buying books and reading books are separate hobbies. I enjoy them both.
Yes.
But I don't think they're related. So anyway, I would love to hear about some of your favorite bookstores, and I can talk about some of my favorite bookstores, and it might be a fun discussion.
Sure. Well, I know just from discussions we've had in the past, I think we need to have a moment of silence for the bookstore that no longer exists, which is both of our favorites, Borders.
I miss Borders.
Yes.
So much. I don't know why it was more magical than it was a big box store. It was not an independent bookstore. It was not, they probably all looked the same. I don't know. I only ever really shopped at one or two. But there was something about that store that was so different than any other big bookstore I've ever been into.
And I hear other people say that as well. I kind of always kept that to myself, but hearing other people say that, I'm like, there really was something, because I always felt that, because whenever we had a choice to go to Borders or Barnes & Noble, I was like, well, there's no question. I mean, why would you even ask me that? Of course we're going to Borders. Borders had the best deals.
Yes.
Their coupons and their membership deals were the best. It was cozy in there. I don't know. It just felt like you wanted to pull a book down and read it there for hours, or just be there for hours looking at books. I don't know. And you can do the same thing at Barnes & Noble, but what is different?
I was just thinking about, so the Borders that I went to, each section of books, the history section, it was kind of its own little nook.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it wasn't just aisles of books, which is, I feel like, what a lot of those larger bookstores have, are just aisles of books, which is wonderful. I love perusing the aisles. I'm not complaining. But I think that, what you said, the cozier feeling, I think it's because it had all these little nooks. You could go into these little, they were almost like rooms, even though they weren't. They were just made out of the shelves.
Thinking about it, I kind of think their ambiance was a little bit dimmer lighting.
Very possibly.
When I'm thinking about it, because when I go into other stores, it's very bright, the fluorescence and all this stuff. But thinking back, I'm I feel like when I went in, it was like I was walking into an independent bookstore, or walking into this cozy little nook, even though it's a bigger store. I don't know. We could go on and on about Borders. I have so many memories of Wes and I just going there for fun. What do you want to do today? Oh, let's go to Borders. It was just...
Whenever I would visit my college friends, I would be in town. That is where we would meet. We'd be like, so where are we going? Are we going out to eat? Oh, no, let's just go to Borders. We were a bunch of nerdy English kids, English major kids. And... so we were like, oh, let's just go to Borders, and we would get coffee and just hang out in Borders, and we would spend hours just walking around. Ah, yes.
Well, the
We
Borders
miss
that I
Borders.
would like to give a little shout out to was the one, if you are from Southern California in Orange County, it was like right off the highway. I think it was like around, I want to say Oso. I could be wrong with the streets, but you know where it is if I'm talking about it. It was by Aliso Viejo, Mission Viejo. It was right there. And when it closed, it was a sad, sad day. Do you remember where your Borders was?
Yes, in Grand Junction, Colorado. And it was just magical. It was in a strip mall. Like, it wasn't in a magical location.
Yeah, ours
It was
wasn't either.
just, yeah.
It was just magical itself.
It was just magical.
All right, so that's our little chat on Borders. We really needed to get that out there because you and I talk about Borders all the time and how sad we are.
do, because it's not. The other stores aren't the same, but I do have to say that I love going into independent bookstores.
Yes,
I love.
And you work
even
at
if
one.
You're just visiting. I do. And if you're just visiting a town, you can learn so much about that area by the kinds of books that are on the shelf at their bookstore. So like at the bookstore that I work at, so shout out to Maggie's Books in Montrose, Colorado. We have so much fun there. But we have like this amazing selection of local authors and books written about the area.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, we live in a town. It's a small town. Montrose is a small town, and just an amazing amount of local authors who have written, I mean, very talented writers and people who have written fantastic books about the area. Like there's this great book, and I love it. I have a copy of it, and it's like the walking history of Montrose. So you can actually take it and go on a walk.
Oh, that's
and
so
it tells
cool.
you the history of like all these buildings and houses that you walk past.
Oh, wow.
And so it's super fun. But I think that's one of the fun things about an independent bookstore is they have these resources. So even if you live in a town where you have like a Barnes and Noble, we don't, we're a pretty small town, but you have a Barnes and Noble, your independent bookstore is going to have books that a large bookstore like that won't even have.
Right.
And so I love, and just like the fun, like the quirkiness in the collection, like you can see the things that we love to read, and that you can really see like what people in the town love to read, because that's what we fill the shelves with. So
you know what I like to see, do you do this at your bookstore? I like to see employees' picks. Do you do that at yours?
We don't do it, but we should. I think that
should.
I usually talk to every person who comes in, and so
they hear your picks whether they want to or not.
This is the one. Read this one next. And that's something else that's really fun about an independent bookstore, like from the employees' point of view, but from the shopper's point of view as well, is you get to know the people who come in.
Right.
And so someone can come in and you know that they like to read similarly to you, and you can be like, oh, I just read this book, it was so good. And I just got to have a conversation like that this morning where someone came in and I know she reads a lot of the same books that I do, and I was like, have you read this yet? I just finished it. It was really fun.
Well, if we're talking about independent bookstores, there's another one. I feel like bookstores can have such a imprint on you, and there's one that I will never forget. I lived in Hawaii for 3 years when I was younger and 3 years when I was older. And this one bookstore, it's called the Book Rack. And it was in Honolulu on Salt Lake Boulevard. And I just went to check it out tonight. And it's closed.
No.
I almost wish that I never would have checked it out. But this place, and again, if you are in Hawaii, you probably know what I'm talking about. And you probably love this place too. It was this very teeny tiny, all used books in there. But when you went in, it was the type where it was very small, kind of dark, and books were just stacked to the ceiling, almost like they were going to fall over if you sneezed. And just packed. And there was an older gentleman that worked there. If you asked him anything, he would take you right to where you asked. And he would, even if he had to remove stacks to get one behind and then like play Tetris with the books, he knew where everything was He was so friendly. They would buy your books, so you could come in with a box, dump them off, and then he would give you credit. And so you could spend the credit. And the best part, here's what I love the most too. The books were not expensive. And that's what's hard for me sometimes when I go into bookstores, especially ones that have used books. And there's, let's say, a paperback. And they want to charge me like $6 for it.
Right. When it was only $7.99 to begin with.
Yeah. This, at the book rack, they were like, I don't know. I want to say I paid max like $1.50. And maybe $2 for a hardback or something. And it was so fantastic. I loved going there. I loved bringing my books there. I loved getting my credit. I loved getting my new books. And I could find everything, which was surprising because it was a very small space. But he had it crammed with like everything. And I feel like I'm mourning twice tonight over Borders in the book rack. I mean, like, come on.
I know. You never want to know that, like, your favorite places are gone.
No.
Like, I need
so
those.
Sad. Yes. Oh, that's just, it's so sad.
Well, another independent bookstore that I love is probably one that a lot more people have heard of, and it's the Tattered Cover. And that's in Denver, Colorado. And they're an independent bookstore, but they have, like, 4 branches, I think, in the city of Denver. And it's a large store inside. I love the downtown one. That's always my preferred stop. It has like creaky old wooden floors, and I believe it's all new. No, they have new and used books now that I'm thinking about it. But just so many books. And I think that's the thing that I love about that store, like I've said about independent bookstores, is that people the employees just come up to you and they're like, oh, what are you reading? What can I help you look for? Mm-hmm. And they want to have those bookish conversations with you. They want to hear your recommendations. They want to give you recommendations. And these stores, every time I go in one, I spend way too much money. I'm just like, what? All the books? Yes, I need all the books. Because I feel like the collections, they're just so well curated. It's not just, this is a huge publisher published all these books, so that's what we have on the shelf. No, they are, maybe this was a self-pub book, or maybe this was like a really unknown author or something, but you can find those books on the shelves, and it's so exciting because you're like, I've never even heard of this before, and maybe you'll find something like so incredible.
Yes.
So
that is awesome, and that's why I like going into. It's fun for me whenever I see an independent bookstore, or even sometimes the title just says used books, and I'm like, I'm in.
Right.
Like, you don't even have to have a fancy title. Like,
no,
just books.
No.
Let me go see
Whereas
what you
most
have.
stores, I would really judge you harshly.
Right.
If your store name was used clothing, right. I'd be like, hard pass. Thank you.
Used mattresses. No, that's gonna not work out. But yeah, I love it. And I feel like, to me, it's a little sad because there's been a couple bookstores around here that have closed. And it makes me really worried, like, in 10 more years, are the independent bookstores still going to be around? Or are they all going to get taken over by Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Books A Million?
Right. I hope not. Partly because I work at one,
yeah.
But partly because there's a charm to having a little bookstore.
Yes.
And our town went for like 6 years without having a bookstore at all. Uh-huh. We had nothing. And like, that was really sad. Like, to just like, your only choice was Amazon. Well, you can't really ask Amazon for a recommendation. Mm-hmm. You can't say, I'm looking for a gift. I mean, you could maybe search that out, but you can't say, I'm looking for a gift for my 7-year-old nephew. Mm-hmm. He likes horses, doesn't like this kind of book. Or he loves, he loves horses. He loves baseball. And get like that real recommendation from a human. Right. And so I don't think, it's really interesting. There was an article, and I don't remember the newspaper. If I find it, I will definitely link it in the podcast notes. But there was this great article talking about how millennials are bringing things back, like independent bookstores, because they want to touch things.
They like to what?
They like to touch things.
Oh.
And so they don't want to order things online because they can't touch them first.
Got it. Yeah.
They want to go in, they want to touch the book, they want to look at the cover, they want to open it up and see the inside. And so how like gift stores and floral shops and bookstores and those types of places where you can very easily order those things online, they're coming back in popularity because this generation wants to actually go and touch things.
Yeah.
Which is yay.
Yeah, if it brings the books back.
And I always want to touch things. So.
Yeah, me too.
I'm like, what does it feel like?
Yeah. Even covers. So when you go to a bookstore just on a random day, just because you want to go hang out at a bookstore, or you're planning on buying a book, when you go in, do you have a plan of attack, or do you just go in lackadaisical? What's going through your mind?
If I'm going in for something specific, a lot of times I will have called ahead. Like if I'm like, oh, I need this book. Like this book is coming out today. I want to know if they're going to have it. Just because I maybe, like, I'll probably still go, but I want to prepare myself for disappointment. So I'll call ahead if there's something really specific I'm looking for. But usually when I go in, I want to hit up all those new book tables. I want to see, I know. I want to see what is brand new. I want to see like like I love a themed display. Like when they put together, oh, here are all the books we have
for summer or something, and it has all the summer books.
Like I love a theme, and so I love those themed displays. So I'll definitely check out those first, and then I like to hit up. Well, obviously, I love YA, so I always hit up the YA section, and I also like to browse through like the English section, like nerdy books about the English language.
Oh.
I know.
Like what? Give me an example.
Like, well, this all started when I actually took history of the English language in college. We had to go and like choose a book about the English language, and I didn't even know that was a thing. And so there was this great book. Right. And so there's this great book called Eats, Shoots, and Leaves. And it's a book about punctuation, and so there's a joke, and I'm going to butcher the joke right now, but it's about like a panda walks into a restaurant and he eats, shoots, and leaves because it's a eats, comma, shoots, comma, and leaves. And so like, and that's the whole joke about the importance of the Oxford comma,
right?
Because they're like, no, you have to leave that out. So you have to leave those commas out. So
that's
it's
a whole nother topic. If you are pro the Oxford comma or not.
I'm pro the Oxford comma. Which reminds me of a couple other jokes, but I will stay on topic. But so it was like this great book, and I didn't know, so I went into Borders, and I didn't know that those books even existed. And so there are books about like the history of swearing, or books about how, like, because the English language is such a muddle of so many different languages. And so there's a great Bill Bryson book about the English language, and there's just all these great books. And so I love to peruse that section, and usually like in a larger bookstore there's like a couple of shelves, and it'll have just like all these really interesting books about, like, you know, I like quote books and books filled with useless facts about the English language. And I have so many of them because I have been packing everything. I think I had 2 boxes of English language books. Yeah. So that's my deep, dark nerdiness there. So what areas are you hitting up?
Oh, goodness. Well, I have frequented our brand new Barnes & Noble quite a few times lately because it's really close to my house now, and they made it very contemporary feel. I still feel like when I walk in, I wish I was walking into Borders. I can't let it go, guys. I'm sorry. I feel like it's like when you're in a relationship and then they leave you and you're still like, but I'll love you forever. I'll go with Barnes and Noble, but I love you forever. So usually I'm not really ever walking in there for a specific purpose. I'm just like, I think I'm going to go, and I'm going to like give myself a quest to leave without having purchased anything. Like I'm going to give myself, this, what is it? I don't know, adventure that I'm going to go on, and I know I'm going to fail, but anyway. So I walk in and I check out the tables at first, and they're very like, these are the brand new books, and I always look at the covers. The covers get me every time, unless I know it's a specific book that I want, and maybe I don't really like the cover, but I know I want the book. But I will many times buy a book specifically because of the cover. Even if it's maybe even not a genre that I read all the time, the covers will get me. And that can be dangerous because, books aren't cheap, especially when they're brand new and they're all hardcover. Right. So I look at all of those first. Then I kind of make my way back to the, general fiction section and see. I love displayed books. I love to see how they're displayed. I love the covers. I check out the kids section. I love fairy tale books. So,
yes.
And I love just the way different people illustrate them and how they put together. So I'm always checking on if they have any new compilations of fairy tales, because I love reading different versions of like Hansel and Gretel, and there's one that you like reading a bunch of different versions, isn't it? Isn't there?
Little Red Riding Hood.
Little Red Riding Hood, that's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're just all a little bit different, a little bit unique, however they're being told. I also check out the homeschool section, just because I am a nerd.
That's
and
a big
I like
part of your life.
I know, but wait, sometimes I feel like I want to do the workbooks because I'm flipping through them. I'm like, this is fun. Like, I could do this. What grade is this? Oh, it's second grade. I got this.
But that's when they're fun, when they're easy.
And then I head over to like devotionals. I love devotionals. And then I always look at like the gift stuff, like the journals, the little knickknacks, the book darts, the book magnets, socks, all of those things. And then I usually, leave with a bag of stuff that I didn't intend to buy. But and I always check to see what new like World War II books are out there. I love the nonfiction and memoirs, and those are like very close to the front doors. I remember 2 instances when Educated first came out, there wasn't a big rush for it. And so I saw it all over the place. So I listened to it on audio, and I was like, this is a book I need to buy because I loved it. And so I'm like, well, I saw it all the time at Barnes & Noble. So I went down there to grab it. And they're like, oh, we're sold out. And I'm like, really? I've seen it here for like a month. And now you're sold out? Like, really? And so then the same thing happened with Becoming Mrs. Lewis. So I kept seeing it, kept hearing about it. And I'm like, I want to read this. I need to own this. So finally, after like a month, I go in. I'm like, all right, where is it? I can't find it. It's always right here. And they're like, oh, we're sold out. And I'm like, okay. See, this is why I need to just buy the book when I first think about it. I also like seeing the employees' picks, and those are on usually the side cap. So I always see kind of what the employees are reading. And so I'm kind of all over the place. I feel like, did you ever see that graphic where it shows it in a red dot, a man going into Target getting what he needs, and it's like a line here, there, and then he totally retraces his step to pay for it and leave. And then a woman going to Target for the same exact thing, like the lines like like
you go through the dollar spot twice, yeah.
That would be my trail through a bookstore.
I love it. And I do have to say that the gift section, like all of the little like bookish things that I I spend so much money in that section, and it's usually on things that I absolutely don't need.
Nope.
Like I don't need my 12th journal.
Right.
I don't journal. I don't journal. I collect journals. See, again, it's different hobbies. But that section, like, it'll say something cute. It'll be a notebook, and it'll say something cute about reading or, like, being obsessed with books. And I'm like, oh, that's me. I must buy this. Yeah. And then I have so many of them. Or, like, cute bookmarks. Like, I'm always like, oh, I need another cute bookmark. And, yeah.
Or a new pack of highlighters or something, like.
Right.
But I'm
not going to use, because I'm not going to be able to find them when I actually want to highlight something.
And I love quoted things. Like, there was a time at Books A Million where they had this whole section of, like, Alice in Wonderland quotes on pillows, on coffee mugs, on everything. And I was like, oh, man, this would just be great to buy all of the things in. Probably like you do with Harry Potter.
Probably. Which normally everyone can see, but not right now.
Yeah.
So, I just love to go into a bookstore. But you just mentioned Books A Million, and I haven't even heard of that before.
You haven't heard of it?
No. It must not be a Colorado thing.
But it's a human thing. Like, how have you not heard?
Wait a second, it's not Borders, so maybe I'm just in denial.
Wow.
So was it like Barnes and Noble?
I can't even believe I'm answering this right now.
Well, maybe we have other listeners that have not heard of it before.
Oh my goodness, this is so funny. I don't even know what to say right now. So it's, I don't know if I've ever seen it standalone. It's usually in a mall. And it's usually a humongous, like the size of a department store, basically. And it's kind of set up like a Barnes & Noble. I mean, it's got the rows. It's a little bit more intimate feeling. So I think it might be like if Borders and Barnes & Noble had a child, you would have Books A Million.
They would name it Books A Million.
Yes. And they do have some pretty good deals. They have a coffee, bar, and they have great gift selections and lots of like just fun different little knick-knack things. But yeah, I'm really like, I don't even know. I feel like I'm being punked.
I'm definitely not punking you right now.
That's so funny because I guess it's such a huge chain that I'm
right.
I'll have to see if it's a I know I feel like they were on the West Coast. I don't know. Have you heard of Media Play?
No.
So Media Play was something that was here in Florida. I don't know if it's a chain thing, but it was a gigantic. I mean, this was like the size of a Walmart, and it had all just forms of media. It had books, CD, music, and they had little places that you could go and get headphones. So if you wanted to listen to a whole CD there, you would just sit in this little cubby and put your headphones on and push the CD, and you could listen to the whole thing, or places where you could read. But that closed. So
that
that's
sounds
gone.
like, so we used to have Hastings here. Have you ever heard of Hastings?
No.
So it sounds very similar. Like they had, like you could rent movies, you could buy movies, they had CDs, they had games, and then books.
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
that sounds like it. But I know.
Kind of smart. But we also don't really have a mall here.
Okay.
So
maybe that's
so
what
if
it is.
like that's probably what it is that Books A Million sounds like
it's still so weird though.
Based. I know.
Now I'm gonna have to Google and see where your closest Books A Million is, and it's usually like acronymed like BAM, Books A Million with a exclamation point.
Oh, aren't they the ones that do the calendar store?
Calendar store, like the pop-ups in the mall?
Yeah,
maybe. I don't know.
All of a sudden, I was like, "Wait, BAM sounds familiar." Oh my goodness! So I need to know if anybody is like thinking the same way that I am. So I'm going to put a poll up on our Facebook page, and you have to come over and let me know if you already knew what Books A Million was. Maybe I'm just a crazy person who's been living in the dark.
That's so
but
funny,
I'm so
though.
curious.
It's funny how, I guess it is regional, apparently. Or maybe it's just in the larger cities. But it's funny when you've just known something all your life and somebody doesn't.
Right.
And you take it for granted. You just assume everybody is on board with you. That's so funny.
Everyone has a store in the mall they can buy books.
I think that they buy books. They just started buying books back. So I think that's interesting too. All
right. Well, I feel like I could talk about favorite bookstores all night long, actually, because that's just where you go. All the magical things happen at bookstores. So we definitely want to hear about your favorite bookstores, and I really want to know if anybody else has, like, favorite Borders stories. Like, do you remember Borders? Was Borders your favorite place, too? Yeah. How is Borders different than Barnes & Noble? Because I really feel like they're probably the same store, but they feel so different inside. Yeah. So we will definitely have posts up on our social media, on our Facebook page, and on our Instagram account. And we want to know what you guys are thinking about Borders, but about your favorite bookstores as well. Because I know that when I travel, I definitely like to hit up independent bookstores. And so
give us a list.
We want to hear all the recommendations. So thanks for hanging out with us tonight, guys. We will see you next week with another topic.
Yes, we will.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed hanging out with us.
Don't forget to check us out on social media and subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on any of the fun.
See you next week.